And good to see everybody else this morning too. Thanks for attending. So thanks for joining today. I hope that all the information I'm sharing is useful. Don't hesitate to stop at any time and ask any questions or put it in the chat. I think Megan, you'll be monitoring that.
Yes, yep.
Okay, cool. So just jump in. And oftentimes in sessions like this, we learn from each other too. So you may have stuff to share and we'd love to hear that for everyone as well. Let's see if I can get this to advance. Okay, just an overview of today. I'm going to talk, most of what I'm going to talk about is Facebook, and I'll probably say that a lot, but it does apply to all social media, most social media. But we're going to talk about, I'm going to go over planning content, creating content, some tools that you might find helpful, and monitoring, a little bit on monitoring the results of your social, and then just a few examples at the end and kind of mixed in as well. Definitely want to give you some background. This is not my area of expertise. I am sort of making the assumption that most of you are in the same boat that I am, that this just became part of my job. I do have a marketing degree, but that was from many years ago, a long, far away, many years ago, before there was even social media. But I think that does give me a basis, and then I've done a lot of different things, and now I'm doing this and kind of learning as I go. So most of what I share is going to be, hey, this is what I do, this is my experience, but please share what you know, and just keep in mind that there are things that I don't know. So I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there and give you some background and sense of where I'm coming from also. I've got my notes here on my other device. Okay. So before I get started with kind of the meat and the logistics of it, I wanted to just put out some assumptions there. And I'm sure many of you have done participated in workshops and such about messaging and plans, and it's the same for Facebook page or social media. You have to identify a purpose, like what's your reason in having a Facebook page? So that is going to be your starting point, right? And then also what you want what audience you intend to reach. So I'm assuming that you've kind of thought through those things. You know why you have a Facebook page, not just, well, everybody has a Facebook page. That you have some stated goals and a reason to do that. And I know you're all familiar with this. So if you haven't done this step, you can spiff it. You know, what are your needs? How can social fit some of the needs that you have for your organization? What resources, what type of capacity do you have to give towards this? You know, the planning part, all of that, I'll touch on that a little bit. But making that assumption, that's definitely your first step. I'm not going to cover it in detail, but if you haven't thought through those things, start there for sure. So planning content, my little transition there. So several steps here. One, I feel like I'm missing a slide here. I'm not. Okay, so first, set a goal, set a schedule, and set aside time to work on your Facebook. I think the hardest thing about social media is that there's no constraints around it, right? Like you could do it anytime, about anything, from anywhere. And so not having any constraints makes it harder to do for some reason. You know, it's that thing of like when you have too many choices, then you don't do any of them. So I found it really helpful for me to really, you know, put some constraints around myself. Like how many times am I going to publish? What days am I going to publish? When am I going to work on this? How much time do I need? And set that aside. So you can set a SMART goal for yourself. I know you're all familiar with this too. Like every Friday from 9 to 10, you're going to work on Facebook posts and you're going to publish them on such and such days. And I have found that to be really helpful in keeping myself on track and making sure that I do spend time on it and dedicate the time towards it. And just my personal process, I develop and schedule Facebook posts on Wednesdays and Fridays. And Wednesdays I make posts for Thursday, Friday, and the weekend. And then on Mondays, I develop and schedule posts for on Fridays for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and on Wednesdays for Thursday, Friday, and the weekend. Another thing that I found really helpful in planning is to have one place to store ideas and inspirations. Again, I think it's that lack of constraints. Someone might send you an email with an idea. You might see something on another social media that is an idea, or you might see something else that's an idea. And so then they get all over the place and then you can't remember where it was. So I funnel everything into a Trello board, which I will show you later today. And then that way, when you go to work on it, you know you've sort of dumped everything in there, and then you can go through and further develop the ideas, see if that's really something you want to share and work on. So yeah, definitely put all your eggs in one basket in this case. I found that to be helpful. Can you guys see the entire graphic here, or is it being covered up by the video screen? Can you see everything? Yeah, okay, good. Another thing that I've found helpful is to develop themes. And I just listed a few here. You don't want to probably choose all of these. I would say maybe 3 or 4. But again, it's another way to focus your attention and your intention for your page. What are the needs in your community? What's the vibe of your community? What do you want to accomplish? And then pick some of those themes to go through. For SEACHA, for our page, ours is to educate and inspire and engage. So when I go to create content and I think about what I want to publish, I know that I want to meet one of those 3 things. I either want to engage people, put something out there that's going to get them active with that post. I want to educate, share information, or I want to inspire. And it doesn't have to be totally work related either. So social is kind of a place in the middle where you can have some fun, or you can do some creative stuff or different stuff. So keep that in mind too. You want to put content that is important to others and that's engaging with others. Another thing that I found helpful is developing a go-to list of content sources. Making social media and creating posts and images and information, it's really a creative process. So you're going to run into writer's blocks, and you're going to have those days when you think, oh, I don't know what to share. I don't know what I want to do today. So building sort of a library of other organizations that you can go to. You can see on my screenshot here that I've got all of these different folders. I created basically a menu. So if I want to talk about child health, I have multiple Facebook pages under there. And sharing other people's content is a sort of easy, quick and easy way to put great content out there, and you don't have to do a lot of work to do that. You don't have to do a lot of your own creating. So building that library is, I found to be really helpful also. And also exploring Facebook groups. There's a lot of groups about every topic out there, and you can go through there and find new pages. You can find images and information related to your work and your goals. And so exploring those and liking those pages and bookmarking those pages will help you find more content as well. And if you're lucky enough to have that coworker or friend or relative that's just super into social media and always sharing cool stuff on their page, or just, you know, that person, and if you can connect with them and reach out to them and say, hey, you know what, I'm in charge of our page. I'm supposed to be doing stuff around these topics. If you see anything, just let me know, send it my way. And there's people in our office that use social a lot or on social, and they'll send me emails like, hey, I saw this cool post. What do you think about this? And even if I don't use it directly, at least it kind of shares and shows me like what's out there and what's popular and gives me ideas. So that I found helpful too. And again, it's okay if it's not 100% work related. You can, you can kind of be creative and be color a little bit outside the lines. Having said that though, I do think it's important to set standards for what type of content you're going to share, what's okay, what's not okay. and have a conversation with your leadership or your organization to talk about those things, even if it's just in the beginning to have that idea that, well, we're not just going to share everything. Like for us, we don't typically share personal posts. If an individual posts something, we kind of put that off limits, but we'll share stuff from advocacy organizations or just reputable sources. But your organization might be different. You might be willing to share personal posts from people in your community, but that's a conversation that you should have, again, to put some guidelines around your content. And then the other thing about planning is that you got to do it. You have to, think about what's coming up in the future, what's coming up in your work or your community. What do you need to share that, or what's the best way to share that? Can you get pictures? Can you get videos? But then also you got to be in the moment because of social media, and social media is like right now, today, this minute. So you also always want to keep your eyes open for opportunities to share something right now. I'm going to try to switch screens here and just give you an example of that, since I have a super recent example. The other day, earlier this week, this is tricky. Where can I find this? Pardon me. I'm like working around the little, okay, here we go. The other day I was in a meeting at work with Elena, this is Elena, our admin secretary, and we were working on a project and had ordered these flyers that we were gonna mail out. And, normal course of work where you're like, oh yay, we finally got them, now we can, send them out. And so I took this picture not intending to post it on social at all, because there's a larger team at work working on this. And I thought, oh, this will be cute. Elena, will you take a picture? And I'll send it to the rest of the team. Just something nice so we can share faces in this time of pandemic COVID. And I sent this image to the team and said, hey, guess what? We got these, we're going to mail them out later today, blah, blah, blah. And the response I got from the email was really positive. There was 3 people right away that was like, I love this. Thank you so much for sending. And just from that response, I sort of inferred like, this is going to do good on social if I put it on social media. So I asked Elena, you can see that I tagged her in there. I tagged partners from the program as well. And I think it's reached, let me see if I can pull it up here. I think it's reached like 800 people or so. So it did really well. And that was 700 people. So that's just an example of kind of paying attention in the moment and thinking, hey, people are liking this, let me put it on social. Okay, let me go back to this. All right. So just a little review on content and set of the steps. Set a goal, set a schedule, make sure you set aside time to work on it. Create that single place for ideas. You can follow whatever work plan works best for you, but have a place to put everything. Develop themes for your content. That's going to help you narrow down the information that you're looking for. Build that library of potential content sources, and then plan ahead, but be in the moment also. So moving on to creating content. First, I thought it'd be really great if we can take a group selfie, if everyone is willing to do that, because of course I'm going to make a Facebook post about this. So do I stop sharing, Megan, to see all the faces? I should have asked you this sooner. I'm totally springing this on her.
No, I think you might be able to just go into a different up top where it says view. Or if not, I could take the screenshot.
Okay. Are you seeing everyone's faces? Because all I see is like my presentation and then a little strip.
Yeah,
oh,
let's
wait.
see.
Oh, this is better. I think I can make this work. Hold on. I see it now. Okay. I got it.
Okay.
Okay, so if everyone's good with that, turn on your video. And then you can take one too, Megan, just to make sure we have a backup.
Okay.
Okay. And then do whatever we want to do. Like, I'm just going to give a little, this is my thumbs up thing, like the old Elaine dance thing. You have to be a certain age to know that. So everyone, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Thanks. Okay, let me see if I can get back to my presentation now. There we go. Okay, I better save that really quick. Okay, thank you. You'll all be on Facebook later. Okay, so actually developing and creating the content. Because it's a creative process and you're trying to create something that's interesting to another person, you really kind of have to put yourself in another person's shoes. You know, you want it to be funny or intriguing or surprising. It's a creative process. So you need to set aside time and not be interrupted when you're actually working on this. I would consider it the same level of focus and concentration as like writing a grant or developing a report, right? You don't want to have a lot of interruptions. You want to be able to really just dig in and explore different ideas and spend that time, that uninterrupted time, to develop good ideas. And this point here is probably the most important thing that I'm going to say today, is that your content has to provide value to your audience. You want to put information out there that your audience is going to stop and look at, and that they're going to positively react to it. So it's either going to be an emotional reaction, or it's going to be, they're going to be intrigued by it, or they're going to laugh. There has to be some sort of reaction that provides value to them. And it doesn't, this is going to sound weird, but it's not always going to align with what you want to do. And that's really the space that you have to become familiar with and sort of figure out. And it's kind of a mystery. I don't understand it. I'll show you some examples later that it's like, well, I don't know why this one post did well and this other one didn't. But you've got to find that space of where you can meet your goals, but then also providing value to your audience. Because if you don't do that, and no one stops to look at your content, or no one shares it, then you're kind of missing the point of, you know, then your information isn't getting shared. Plus, the way that social media algorithms work, for example, Facebook's goal, and most social media's goal, is to get people to use their social media as much as possible for as long as possible. So if you put something out there that people are finding value and people like, people share, people engage with, Facebook's going to be like, hey, people like this. We're going to show this to more and more people. So everybody's individual Facebook feed looks completely different. And you may have 800 followers on your page, but a small fraction of your followers are going to see your posts based on what they typically look at and what they typically like and engage with. So the more content that is engaging, the more people are going to see it. If you haven't seen that Netflix documentary called Social Dilemma, watch that. It's super interesting, and it kind of gives you that background on how social media works and how they basically control the information that goes out, which can be a bad thing, but it's also something to keep in mind when you are trying to reach people by social media. In order to provide value, you have to know your audience. I'm showing on this screen, this is just a screenshot of our Facebook audience. And, you know, this is not my full-time job. I am not a marketing expert. I don't have all the demographic information. I don't have the tools to really dig in and spend full time to say, who is my audience, and get it narrowed down. But just by looking at this information that's right out there, I've got almost 65% of my fans are women, probably with children, right? So parents, a lot of times I'll keep in mind, like, hey, parents, here's something that you might interest you and your family. not so many men. So it's kind of a blend. Just you can infer from that. And then also watching what people like and what people engage with will kind of give you a sense of who your audience is. Like I said, it's still kind of a mystery for me, but I suspect based on what engagement and what does well on our pages that we actually have a lot of health professionals that follow our page because of the types of interaction they have with our page. So providing that value, you may say, well, we want people to engage in a recovery program, but your audience might be moms. So how do you provide information to moms that support your goal of your recovery program? It's going to be a narrow line. You're really going to have to think about it and put yourself in your audience's shoes. But that's something you really, really got to keep in mind when you're creating content. Do some research. Spend some time on social media and just follow that rabbit hole. You might do it already on your free time, but do it during work and with a work lens. What types of things do you like to share? And do you keep your attention? What do you look at the longest? What posts you really well? When you see something on another social media, how many times has it been shared? How many comments does it have? And what is it about that post that you think might be causing it to do really well? And then you can also search keywords to see what's trending, what's interesting, what hashtags people are using, and that will give you an idea of things to try. This is lots of experimentation with social. Put stuff together and see if it works, and then just keep learning from that. So let me go ahead and go back to here. So for example, I wish I could make that little button go away here. So for example, here is, if you go to just regular Facebook, there's a search box right here. So I searched for recovery, and it's going to bring me a bunch of different content that has this theme to it or this word in it. You can look for pages. So for example, well, now there you go. That's recovery in terms of technology. But look, here's Voices of Hope Maryland. Then you could go into this page and what are they sharing? Do they have things that align with your work that might work and that you might be able to share on your page? You can also search for groups. I think I mentioned that earlier. So there's a lot of different groups that you could become a part of or join as a person and see what types of information they share, if there's anything that aligns with your work. And you can do that for like any topic. I have been trying to share more like positive, happy type stuff. So I search for happiness and just to see, well, what are people sharing? Is there some good content? And it has showed me like a lot of content and information that is helpful that I can share with our audience. Okay, I'm gonna switch back to here. Okay, next, like I said, this is really a creative process. So you let yourself be an artist. And I know most of us don't think of ourselves as artists, but everybody can be creative. Think about your work in a different lens. Try to make novel connections between images and ideas. How can you make a message appealing? Like what kind of wording is simple but attention getting? And then try new things. There's a lot of experimentation. I listened to an audiobook called 1 Million Followers that was done by a social media professional. And I don't, and I'm assuming that you don't have the capacity nor the budget nor the time to do what he did, but his method was he would come up with 10 or 20 different versions of the same post. So if, for example, if it was an event, he did, different images with different types of wording, all these different kinds. And then he would use Facebook ads to put it in front of people that were not his audience. So he had all of his followers that were already following him. And then he used Facebook ads basically to test So he would put stuff out there and pay a small amount of money to have it shown to an audience similar to his audience that he already had. And then he tested it. So the things that did well, he would publish those to his page. So he did a ton of experimentation, and that's what we can do too. And I will do that too. I'll say, well, this is kind of different. This is not something that I would normally like or that I would think is interesting, but it seems to be doing well over here. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try this idea and see how it does. Sometimes it goes great. Sometimes it falls flat. It's kind of a mystery. I still don't understand it. You know, sometimes it's like, well, was it the time of the day? That there was something else going on in the news, who knows, but it does guide you and it does give you some ideas and gives you experience in putting stuff together. And then also kind of discover what's not boring about your work. Because let's be honest, public health is not exciting. We're not celebrities, we don't have TV shows, we don't have like some other, most of us, unless some of you do, maybe, have some other like big way to drive people to our social media. So we have to be super creative and come up with things. Like the post I showed you with Elena. I mean, that's just a normal run of the day, you know, touch base on a project. But I was able to capitalize on it by taking that picture, sharing it with the group, paying attention to the reaction, and then sharing it. So you do have to ask your friends and family too. You know, when people ask you what you do, how do you explain it to them? And talk to people that aren't in your work and say, well, this is what I do. Does any of it sound interesting? Or what do you want to know more about? And then use that as ideas also. Excuse me. Sending a clear message is super important, pretty much in anything nowadays, but especially social media. Your message has to be really simple, really clear, short sentences, easy words, clear pictures. And you also, especially on social, have to assume that your audience has no context, because people that don't know much about you will be seeing this, so they don't have the context that you do. This is an example of a post that I posted a couple months ago. Looking at it now, it's still too many words, I think. It's probably, you know, not a stellar super example, but I did take the single image, kind of a darker image in the background, and one message, and that was it. So I think in the actual post, I put probably a link to an article and a little bit more information, but that attention grabbing image is just like one message. And I'll have an example later of a couple different messages and the difference that it evokes. So I know it's easy for us to get carried away and wanting to like share everything and, you know, tell all the information. I'm the worst at that. I want to give like all the context and background, but that's not the place to do it on social. You really want to grab attention, and that requires like a very clear, simple message. So think about what reaction you want, what action you want people to take, and then use that in building your content. So just a quick review on what I chatted about for creating content. So eliminate interruptions, make sure you have time to do it. Make sure you're providing value to your audience. If you're not providing value to your audience, you're not going to stop and look at it, and you're not getting your information out. Do your research, surf the web, kind of go down those rabbit holes, find out and just learn more about what's trending, what's interesting, what you like, what other people like. Let yourself become an artist, and then send clear messages also. Okay, so I am going to move into helpful tools. Have there been any questions, Megan? Are we good to go?
We have not had any questions.
Okay, all right. And then how am I doing on time? Good.
It's
right?
11:06, so you're doing great.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so tools. First off, be resourceful. Every single thing is on Google. So just if I Googled how to make good Facebook posts, and there's like thousands of videos that come up, right? Watch some of them, see what they have to say, and take the ideas that resonate with you and use them. There's Facebook Help Center has a lot of really good tips too. And then Google, of course, if you're like, I don't know, how do I schedule something in advance on Facebook, or can I do something on Facebook? Just type it into Google or type it into the Help Center to get an answer. It's just, I'm sure that you have to figure things out and work, and this is the perfect thing to figure things out because everything's online. You can find it, you can do it. One of the tools that I use the most, of course, is Facebook publishing tools. Let me go back to here. And so we have multiple pages for our health system, and we switched to Business Suite. So I don't know if everybody has that. So it might look a little bit different, but if you go, I'm going to go to our Facebook page. And then if I go to publishing tools here, it will give me the things that I use most on this publishing tools page. Once it loads, are the published posts, the posts that are scheduled, in the drafts. That's really the three that I use the most here. Because we're using that Business Suite, it refers me to Business Suite for the published and scheduled posts, but the draft posts are here. So, and this is a good time to also say that Facebook and probably other platforms are constantly changing their platforms, and it's kind of a pain in the butt, and things are moving all the time, and things that you were able to do before get wonky, and it's just, I feel like it's just kind of part of the deal. So take a deep breath and just realize that it's kind of always shifting a little bit. So, but that doesn't make it challenging and kind of annoying. For example, if I create a draft post, I do it from here because I can go in here and make edits and schedule it from here. However, if I go into the Business Suite, and here's where I can see my published posts and my scheduled posts. So for example, I have a scheduled post for later today. I can't edit it from here anymore. I used to be able to before they changed everything, but now if I want to change this, I actually have to delete it and recreate it, which is dumb, but that's just how it is right now. So I will, if I'm creating drafts, I do it here, and then from this publishing tools, I can see what's published. It gives me a nice overview of how many people it reached, the engagements, the reaction likes, the comments, and then I can also see what I have scheduled coming up as well. So on the Facebook publishing tools, those are the three pieces I use the most. Facebook ads. So let me go back to my other thing. This one right here. I have a really big lesson for you on this one. So we actually had our ad account shut down. And the reason it was shut down is because we were doing a lot of AODA work, and the Facebook algorithms for approving ads. So they review and approve all ads, but most of them are done automatically, right? So if you're doing AODA work, I think a lot of you are, there's so many trigger words in the AODA world, right? So if you use nicotine or any drugs or treatment, there's so many things that'll just automatically reject your Facebook ad. Facebook ads are great. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You can target your audience. You can get your messages in front of new people, which is really important, and it'll help you build your overall followers. But especially in AODA work, be really, really careful about how your ads are created and how your posts are created that you boost, which is when you do an ad. So check out their ad policies. They actually do have like a tutorial, a little like Facebook class that you can take on them. I still think they're super convoluted and hard to understand, but be super careful, because now that our ad account's shut down, there's no recourse. I can't imagine that it's closed forever, but I've requested reviews. They haven't responded. the pandemic doesn't help. The election didn't help because they were super busy monitoring ads for that. But I mean, it's literally been months and we have not gotten a response from them. And we do actually have a social media expert within our health system, and I've been working with him, and he doesn't know what to do either, because there's not like a phone number you can call or a direct email. So keep that in mind, especially with AODA work. But having said that, Facebook ads are really useful to get your content in front of other people. And something that I did before while we were able to post is, and I learned this from the 1 Million Followers book, I didn't boost something until I saw that it was doing well already, because that will just make it do even better. Unless it's like a specific event or something with a specific action, you want people to register, you want people to download something, you want people to watch a video, whatever that's specific. I typically would only boost something after I saw that it was doing well. So for example, the Elena post, that's reaching 700 people. Once that hit probably 300 people, I would have boosted that. If it was, I only boosted like maybe twice a month. So if the timing was right, I would do that. But I would wait until it had some traction, because again, those algorithms, Facebook wants people to use Facebook as often as possible, as long as possible. So if your post is already doing well and then you boost it, it's going to push it out to an audience that's going to share it more, and because they want the same thing that you want. They want people to see your content. Okay. I mentioned earlier Trello. So Trello is a free online tool that allows you to organize. It's basically a project management tool. I love it, and I use it for more than just Facebook. I use it for other things. Wow, I really skipped over. And you can have multiple people working on it. So the way it's set up is, and I'm going to go to it live, but I have the screenshot here. This is a Trello board, this whole screen. So this is the Facebook board. And then you have lists. So every one of these columns is a list. It's circled in red here. And then within the list, there's different cards and the way I use it is for each post. So just to give you an overview of what my process is, and this is my basket where all my eggs are, right? So anytime I get an idea or someone sends me something, I create a card and I put the link in there or the idea, Jen sent me this article on happiness, and I'll stick it in there so that it's all in one place. So then on my Wednesdays and Fridays, when I go to develop content, I have everything in here. So my process is I take the idea, I set a due date, like what day do I want to schedule this? Then I develop the content, and then I schedule it. So I'm actually going to go to Trello. So this is my live Trello board. And you can see that I have another individual here. He's our social media person for the health system. So he has access to this to see if ever wants to pop in there, see what I have going on, he can. And then you can invite other people to join as well. And I think there's limits on the free version. I think there's limits on team size, but it's super helpful to have multiple people if you have multiple people working on him. So I set it up where I have a column for each week. And then I also have it by team as well. So let me hide this. I've got, our behavioral health, AmeriCorps, AODA, just other random ideas. So anytime I get something, I create a new card. And this is the example I did for yesterday. Oh, I have a new idea for a Christmas post. And then within this card, when I click on it, it opens up. I can put copy in here. I can put links in here. You can actually attach files if you want. And then you can put comments as well. So if you have multiple people working on this, you can have a string of comments based on the work that everyone's doing. You can set a due date. So if you wanted to have it post on the 16th at 8 a.m., or I'm sorry, the 26th at 8 a.m., that'll set a due date for you. And then I also use labels. You can label the cards, And I use it as a step in my process for developing content. So I get the idea, I'm like, okay, I have this Christmas idea. I want it to post on November 26th. But if I don't have any content, then it stays like that. But if I do, if I'm like, oh, I know what I'm going to do, and I put everything in here. So when the content's 100% done, I have the image, I have the message, I have the post copy, I put that all in there, and then I'll label it that the content's complete. So then I have a code for myself. You know, these are done. So if it's green, you know, this one's due. Actually, this was one that I posted this morning. So this one says due soon, but it's actually done. So I'm gonna mark it done. It's going to turn to green. This one is due today. And I have the content done. I've used this label here to say, okay, I have all the content ready to go. I put the link in here. It's actually a CDC post that I'm going to share. So I know it's 100% ready to go. Then I'll mark it content complete. Then that really helps me like organize. I can see at a glance what needs to be done. And then you can also move cards around. So if I decide, you know what, I don't want to do this week, I'm going to move it over here. You can move things up and down, you know, so like this week, tomorrow, I'll be working on content for next week. I have some due dates in here, like the 23rd is National Eat a Cranberry Day. So I was going to do a post about that. I'm going to do a post about this social media presentation. So once I get the image, I'll put the image in there. And then I'll start organizing and say, okay, well, you know, a week to Thanksgiving, I might do this one. And then I can just move them around and say, well, I want to do this one first. I want to do this one second, and organize it that way. Sorry, I'm doing a lot of talking. Tea is good. So that is, let me go back to here. So that is a Trello board. I love it. It's super helpful. And hopefully you can find it helpful too. And like I said, it's not only for Facebook, it can be used for anything. Canva is another tool that I use all the time as well. It's a free graphic design platform that can be used to combine images, text, and graphic elements to create social media posts. Now, I do have a background in graphic design. I do have some experience in that, and I think that makes it a lot easier for me to use Canva. It is a different way of building stuff, and it can be a huge time suck. So keep that in mind if you want to explore that, but it's also a really, really great tool to make posts. And they have a billion templates, so you can, you know, use something that they've already created. You can create your own. So for example, if I wanted to make a Facebook post, I can go here. This is free also, by the way, and you can also have a team working with you. And there's all these different things I can use, all these different templates I can use, or I can just create a blank one. So for example, if I just pick like this one here, use this template, it'll create a new Facebook post for me. And you can upload your own images. So for example, I'm trying to see, like here's a image from Wood County that I uploaded. You can put that in the background. It's a big image, so it's still loading. So you can upload your own images. They have photos that are already in there that you can use that are royalty free. I don't know why that's not loading. It's taking forever. There's different shapes and icons and picture frames, you know, text, of course. I've not gotten into music pieces and videos at all, but there's a lot of different options that you can use here. I have no idea why that's not loading. And then there's a toolbar up here. Again, it takes a little bit of getting used to. So for example, well, these aren't grouped together, but you can group elements together. You can move stuff around. You can change colors. Sky's the limit. So if you are inclined to give it a shot, you can be really simple and just use stuff that they already have and just change some words and stuff. And as you get more familiar with it, you'll be able to be more and more creative. It's kind of fun. I enjoy doing it, but like I said, it can be a huge time suck too. Okay. So just to review some tools that you might find helpful: Google, YouTube, of course. Anytime you're like, I wonder how to do this, just type that into Google and you'll get some answers. Facebook publishing tools, of course. Facebook ads is a great tool, a great way to get your content out in front of new people. And then the Trello project management board has been really helpful for me. And then, of course, Canva, if you want to get into the graphic design part of it as well. Okay, so I'm gonna get into monitoring results a little bit. I think I'm still doing pretty good on time. I'll kind of speed it up a little bit here. There's a ton of metrics on Facebook, and to be honest, again, not my full-time job. I just kind of pick the stuff that means the most to us and our goals, and do the same for your organization as well. I would imagine that you're going to want to track like the number of followers. You're going to want to track reach in some way, whether it's by post or for your total reach for your page. You know, there's different timeframes you can look at. I would imagine you're going to want to reach engagement as well, or measure that. The audience demographics, you can do it by region. So for example, one of the goals I have for our page is we have a lot of Marshfield followers. Well, I want to expand that. So I'm looking at how many followers do we have in Eau Claire and in Minocqua and different communities. You'll probably want to track the number of posts also, only because your engagement and your post reach, if you're measuring post reach, are going to be directly related to your posts, right? So you do 10 posts a week. You know, on average, I would say I do 10 to 14 posts a week, and they on average reach, you know, 150 people, let's just say, more or less. Well, if I do half that number of posts, then I'm going to reach less people. So, you know, the weeks when I share our stats with leadership for our department, I always put the number of posts, because like, well, I didn't have time to do as many posts this week, so therefore our engagement and reach was down. So Facebook Insights is where you can get all this information from, and I will go back to that. So I'm in the business suite. This is the same for if you go to your page, you'll have insights here as well. And this might actually refer me to Business Suite because we're using Business Suite. So really just explore this. You know, here's the basic. You can also set the days here, but unfortunately Facebook's kind of weird because you only have a few choices up here, which is kind of annoying. So if you want to get, say, data for the month, because only 1 month is 28 days. So if you want to get the data like for 31 days, you have to go to export data. And if you go to export data, then you can really set your specific dates. But I'll warn you, it's a giant spreadsheet and it's kind of hard to decipher. So, you know, that's up to you whether you want to get into all that. Followers are here. Again, just click on Page Insights and kind of explore around. If you go to people, I believe this is where your audience is. You can see, you know, the distribution of age and gender. You can see the cities where you have the most followers. Business Suite is pretty much the same. There's a couple different features in here. For example, I do want to show you this. So I like this content report. This one will tell you your best performing posts. This is for the last 28 days, but I'm actually going to switch it because later I cover what our best performing posts were. And then it tells you, like, it's kind of got this nice graphic and tells you what did well and how many people it reached and what the posts were. So again, pick the metrics that make the most sense for you and for your goals. Okay, let me go back to, so I am going to move into the next and final part of my presentation. Examples. So I just have a couple examples. Again, a lot of this is still a mystery to me, and I think, you know, this isn't, again, this is not my full-time job. I don't have all the technology to like really delve into why things do well and why they don't. So it's very intuitive, and because it's kind of a creative process, I think that's just always going to have that component. But I can share some things that have worked, and hopefully they're helpful to you. So this was a post that did fairly well. I posted it October 30th, so a couple weeks ago, and it was someone sent, it might have been Jen from our office, sent me an article on finding happiness during a pandemic. Of course, we're all in the midst of that, and I thought, well, this would be a nice positive message to share. The article was really great, but it was an article, and it was, you know, just kind of not that exciting. So I used Canva, and the article had these 8 tips. So I used Canva and I created this graphic that had a summary of those 8 tips, very clearly resourced back to the content. I simply took someone else's content and I created a graphic around it, and then posted that. So created the image, used the, you know, put a little intro here, linked to the actual article, and then put a couple of hashtags, and it reached, you know, almost 2,300 people. It got shared 9 times. And sharing, so in that book that I listened to, 1 Million Followers, sharing is like your ultimate goal, because every time someone shares it, then it gets seen by all of their people. So content that's shared, you know you're doing something right if people are sharing it. By contrast, if I would have just pasted, you know, if I would have just taken an article like and pasted it into a post, this is what the post would have looked like. You know, and I just did this as an example. So, but you can see the difference between having this image, kind of a little positive message and a summary of the information versus, well, I'm just going to share this link and put nothing else on it. Now, granted, I think an image probably popped up. So it would have shared an image, but a lot of times those images aren't that related. So this one did well. I guarantee you if I would have just did something like this, it would not have gotten the reach because there's not an image with it. Here's a couple posts from, can everyone still see me? Yes, okay. This is a couple posts from DHS. Now, neither of these are good or bad. I'm not out here to bash DHS by any way, shape, or form. But this is kind of a contrast on a clear message versus a not as clear message. So on the left, this was I have to think about a resource, right? So they put a resource together about understanding the effects of collective trauma. I'm sure it was really good. Not sure who their audience was, you know, wasn't general public, obviously. And, you know, looking this, you're like, oh, okay, well, cool, I guess. I don't know what would make me click on it. And it's not very clear, like what they want me to do with that. As opposed to this one, it's super clear. Like, we're having Facebook Live to answer questions about health insurance, open enrollment. So, you know, the clarity there. So if they wanted a similar response, and again, this is probably a different audience, like if you're a professional and this relates to you, you're going to look at it, and that's probably what they were assuming. But if they wanted some specific action or some really clear results, it would have been better if they would have created an image like this or put a header, a different headline or something along those lines. And then just some of our most successful posts from June. And again, if you see a pattern in this, like, please let me know. They sort of seem random to me. So like I said, it's kind of a mystery what does well, what doesn't, but I think I'm getting a little bit better at it. So this one that did the best, reached 10,000 people, was our back to school tips. And this got a lot of traction. Well, the highlighted ones are ones that I boosted. So I did pay for these to get boosted. And then also I paid the same amount for each of these also. So that's important to keep in mind. Like I paid, I think $20 and this one reached 10,000 and I paid the same amount and this one only reached 5,000. So again, it's that thing of if it's doing better, it's going to be better. It's going to do better if it's already doing better. And this one got a lot of traction because one, it was, back to school during a pandemic. Everyone was like, what is happening? We don't know what's happening, what to do. It got shared a lot by the health system because it was published by the health system. It got shared by a lot of people on our page, which again leads me to believe we've got a lot of health professionals working or that follow our page. So that one really got a lot of traction. The next one was tips on, this was right before the 4th of July weekend. And we were making a plea to stop the spread of COVID. DHS had just released a press release urging residents to stay home. And then I took some of those thoughts and turned those into a 4-panel. There was 4 different images. Like here are some, tips for when people don't want to follow the recommendations, or when a family or friend is like, no, I don't want to do that. Here's how to communicate with them. That one did really well. This one was one of our schools that received funding from the COVID Community Support Fund, shared a picture of what they did with their funds. They sent care packages to students and their families during the end of last school year's distance learning. That one did really well. I tagged the school district in it. Tagging other agencies brings it to their attention and makes it more likely that they'll share it. These 2 posts are from our Community Connections team, and they screen patients and connect them to community resources. These posts are so simple and they always do really well. I think it has to do with they're timely. So the Community Connections team are always working with patients so they know what people are looking for. Like this time of year, people need help with utilities. Other times of the year, it's food or clothing. And so they're able to, and they know, because they're in direct contact with patients, they know exactly what patients are asking for. So they turn those into a quote. And this like reddish orange part never changes. All I do is I just change the quote to highlight whatever need is current, and they always do really well. This was a video from one of our nurses that did a blood soup activity that was during the summer when we were doing programming for families. This, I have no idea why this went well. This is Global Hand Washing Day. I don't know. I thought people would be like sick of hearing about hand washing, but it was Global Hand Washing Day and I needed content, so I did it, but it did really well. And then there's the happiness one, and this was a Northwoods Coalition one. So yay, you guys.
Hey, Laura.
Yeah.
We have a question about how much it costs to boost these posts. Is it a set price or can you choose an amount?
You can choose an amount. In fact, if it's helpful, I can actually pull up a window. Let's say, because even though our CJA ad account is shut down, my personal ad account is not. So let me show you what that looks like. You can see I manage several pages here. Turkey Trot. So I volunteer with a Turkey Trot here in Stevens Point. So if I were to boost this post, there's a lot of choices here. I never add a button to it, but here's the audience. And you can choose your audience. Of course, if I were going to boost this one, I would only want, this is United States. Well, I don't want that. I would only want like Portage County. Are you sure I want to close? Confirm. Okay. And then you just set how long you want it. And you can, I think, looks like you can spend, minimum budget is, so if I were to set this to 1 day, oh, well, I could set it for 1 day, but it says ads that run at least for 4 days. So they're giving you tips here. So I think, I usually spend $10. No, I think it was $20 that I spent $20 on the one that reached 10,000 people. So you can really do very small budgets. And I think we have also set $10 limits too. So 5 days for $10. And it'll tell you how many reach. It'll reach 81 to 234 people per day. It's pretty inexpensive. And again, if you're sharing something that's already kind of doing well, you're going to have really good results with it. Does that help? Does that answer the question?
I think based on the questions that I was seeing, that's what they were looking for.
Okay.
We'll see if anyone else types in the chat.
Okay. All right. And I'm pretty much done here. So if anyone has questions or they want to see something else, I'm ready for that. I can answer as much as good as I can. Let me go back to Facebook.
And you guys should have the ability to unmute yourself. So feel free to either type in the chat box or just unmute yourself and we can have a group conversation here too.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Does anyone have any more questions while we have Laura?
It feels nice to stop talking, to be honest.
Oh.
Well, I mean, if no one has any questions, you can always reach out. I think you can feel free to share my email address, Megan. And I hope this was helpful. Like I said, I'm certainly not the expert in this, but hopefully how I've been managing to do it and the tools that I use have been helpful in giving you guys a place to start at least, or a place to develop.
It looks like there's a lot of questions in the chat box. Can you see those and address those?
Well, I see a few here.
Yes, I don't.
Most of them are just thank yous. You're welcome.
I guess I
You can
don't
create
see
flyers.
any.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Someone mentioned, oh, Megan, you did about the flyers. Yeah, you can do a ton of stuff on Canva. Like Canva is really good for, yeah. There's so many tools. Casey mentioned infographics. There's actually, yeah, Pictochart, and there's like free infographic builders out there. Again, just use Google, and I can't remember what I looked for the other day. Oh, like data comparison, which I'm not good at data stuff and converting, but I think there's like a Google Analytics data visualizer now that you can use. So yeah, just anytime you have an idea of like, can I crop this? Can I, change colors in a photo or whatever, just Google it and you'll find like freeware to do it.
Awesome. And we did record this training and we'll share that recording. It will actually be on the same website that you guys use to register. That's kind of our homepage for this webinar series. Laura, would you be comfortable sharing your presentation slides? We did have a request for that. Okay, awesome. Yeah. So we'll send the presentation out directly to those who registered after this. And then also, if you do need a certificate of attendance for this training, please email the UW-Stevens Point and they'll be able to get that to you. That should have been on the email that you guys got confirming your registration. And if you have any problems, you can always email that AODA shared email or me and we'll get that for you. So just a few other things to wrap up, but yeah, if there's no more questions, we're getting some really positive feedback in the comments. So thank you so much, Laura. And I hope we can all take something away from this training.
Yeah. And follow our Facebook page, everyone.
There you go. Yeah, you'll see a picture of yourself probably from this training.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well,
Thanks for
thank you
inviting me,
so
too.
much.
Yeah, at first I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm qualified to share this information, but I'm glad that I was able to wrap my head around what I can share. So thanks for
No, yeah,
inviting me.
this was great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. If you guys have any questions, reach out to any of us. And yeah, I'm gonna probably close us out here.
Thanks, Megan. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the day and
Yeah,
weekend.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.